Hokage, the civilian Genjutsu master who can read minds. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 41 Little Ino. Guard. Captain, that guy actually dared to resist our security team. Even Lord Hokage. He has to be captured and interrogated instead of just letting him go. How can we, Uchiha, lose face like this? The slightly fat Uchiha said to Shursui. Still not convinced. What do you think we are, Uchiha? This is the police force. It's the department that protects the village, not Uchiha's private land. Uchiha Shursui frowned. The slightly fat Uchiha was dissatisfied when he heard this. Slim Uchiha, Captain, I need to check that guy just now. He can actually rebound our Uchiha's Genjutsu. His concerns were different. He was very afraid of Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's ability to rebound Sharingan Genjutsu. This has never happened before. Uchiha would actually lose to a commoner in Genjutsu. And in the hands of Uchiha Shursui, Uchiha's strongest Genjutsu ninja, it's like a miracle. The captain actually loses the Genjutsu confrontation. Ninjas have very good eyesight, and he could tell from Shursui's move just now. It was because he was hit by the guy's Genjutsu, or he had to prepare for a long time before cracking it. Hearing this, not only the fat Uchiha but also Shursui frowned. But they both had different ideas. The slightly fat Uchiha was thinking about how to get rid of that guy so as not to threaten Uchiha. And Shursui. What I was thinking about was how much the other party felt like they belonged to the village. Go to the archives department and ask them to retrieve Feizu Kingfei's information. I want to see who he is? Doubtful, Shursui said to his subordinates. After hearing this, Sho Uchiha withdrew. In less than 15 minutes, he came back with the information. Captain, this is Feizu Kingfei's information. The one from the archives department is surprisingly easy to talk to. It seemed that we were expected to pass. Skinny Uchiha said. Shursui, it seems that Hokage-sama wants to let us know. He understood that this must have been given by third generation, otherwise the information in the archives department would also be confidential, and there would be a complicated process to obtain the information. This is all to prevent the village's information from being revealed at will. He opened the information and read it. 17 years old? 17 years old, isn't that the same age as you, Captain? Uchiha was surprised. Besides Kakashi, Konoha actually has talents that can rival Shursui? Well, I graduated early and joined the Third World War at the age of 11. As a member of the analysis class, I worked under Yamanaka Haiichi. During the 3 battles, he read enemy intelligence for Konoha and made a lot of contributions. And promoted to Chunin. Now he is Special Jonin, his position is a captain of the analysis class. Specializes in Genjutsu. A 4th-generation adult commented, a calm and talented companion. 3rd-generation Sama's comment, a man who inherited the will of fire. Uchiha Shursui read the information, and his face slowly relaxed. If the 4th Hokage-sama and the 3rd Hokage-sama comment, then they are definitely not enemies. And it can be seen that the information is not very comprehensive. It should be that 3rd generation only allowed them to see what they could see. Damn it, I can actually be raided by 2 Hokage-samas, the 4th generation and the 3rd generation, at the same time. How virtuous and capable he is. Slightly fat Uchiha is angry. Although they looked down on common people except for the famous families of Konoha, they still respected Minato, the Hokage. The perfect Hokage in the true sense of the word. Such Minato actually agreed with the identification of Flying Bamboo Dragonfly as his partner. Shosho Uchiha feels the same way. It seems we can't touch him. Believe in the power of Sharingan, it is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Uchiha Shursui knew what they were thinking that Flying Bamboo Dragonflies would threaten Uchiha. But only he knew that Sharingan's power was not something civilians could catch up with. That's it, keep the information so that the security team can check it at any time. Finally he gave the order. Yes. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly didn't know that 4th generation, whom he had only met a few times, would give him such an evaluation. Also, I don't know the reviews of 3rd generation at all. Now he doesn't want to think about Uchiha, nor does he want the 3rd generation to know about his new technique, and he doesn't want to work overtime in the future. Now he and Calamus are happily eating a big meal. For him, ninja is just a job and a profession that provides the ability to protect himself. Not all of his life. So if you can have time to spend with your family, you should spend more time with your family. Those 3 people just now were so fierce. Calamus picked up a mouthful of sushi and fed it to Feiju Dragonfly's mouth. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly opened her mouth wide and ate it, picked up a piece with her hand and stuffed it into her mouth. It's okay. No matter how fierce you are, you can't beat me, your husband. Don't worry about that. He showed off his biceps, showing that he was very strong. Calamus was amused by him and laughed. The fear just now disappeared. The two were talking and laughing in the Sashiro restaurant. Outside, Yamanaka Haiichi also walked in with a little girl. Hey, dragonfly boy. His eyes lit up when he saw the flying bamboo dragonfly. He walked over with the little girl in hand. Flying bamboo dragonfly puffed up its mouth and saw Yamanaka Haiichi and the little girl he was holding. Hey, isn't this the busy man, Mr. Haiichi? This is your daughter Ino. This is the first time I've met him. Okay. Cute. Hello, Mr. Haiichi. Chongpu also saluted when he heard this. Hello, Ino, please call brother Dragonfly. Yamanaka Haiichi smiled and said to the little girl. When Yamanaka Ino saw the flying bamboo dragonfly and the bandage on his face, he took 2 steps back in fright and hid behind Yamanaka Haiichi's legs. Big eyes poked out to look at him. Brother Dragonfly. The several-year-old Ino cooed. Hello, little beauty Ino, come here and give me a hug. Flying bamboo dragonfly's eyes lit up. Just like Naruto, Ino was so cute when she was a child. He knelt down to give her a hug. However, Ino dodged it, hiding behind Yamanaka Haiichi's leg and hugging his leg. I told you not to cover your head all the time. You look like you're scaring my beloved daughter. Yamanaka said with a smile. Flying bamboo dragonfly, nonsense, this is a different kind of beauty. Do you think it's Ino? He looked over to little Ino. How terrible. Calamus covered her mouth and chuckled, looking at him speechless. This is my wife, Iris. Flying bamboo dragonfly introduced. Well, I know, the daughter of the uncle who beats up Ichiraka ramen. Yamanaka has a good memory. Then they sat down at a table and ate together. After chatting, it turned out to be true. Yamanaka Haiichi's wife, seeing that he was always working, knew that there was nothing major going on in the Konoha analysis class today, so she specifically asked her to take her daughter to play with her today. So I took my little Ino for a stroll on the street, and when I saw a sushi restaurant, I walked in. Ran into them by chance. It's fun. The 4 of them chatted about everything from casual hobbies to various hobbies. Just don't talk about work. Fisha Kingying, who has always wanted to have 4 babies, saw the lovely Ino. Start teasing her with Genjutsu. At the same time, her eyes met with Calamus from time to time, making her blush brightly. Little did she know that Fisha Kingfeng often told her that she would have 4 babies. Little Ino looked at the flying bamboo dragonfly's hands and felt so strange. Just like a flower growing, it blooms from time to time and withers from time to time. No matter what flower she wants to see, it will appear on the hand of the flying bamboo dragonfly. So amazing. My little hand wanted to touch it, but it came up empty. Only Yamanaka had no choice but to tease the child with Genjutsu. What a luxury. I also lament that this subordinate Genjutsu is getting stronger and stronger. Episode 42. 8 trigrams, Itachi. Konoha, outside Sashiro's shop. Bye-bye, brother dragonfly. Little Ino held Yamanaka Haiichi and waved to her with her little hands. Flying bamboo dragonfly waved, goodbye, I'm waiting for you at the Jonin school. My brother will teach you the ninjutsu that you just turned into a flower. New. The sibilant little Ino shouted happily. Chongpu looked on with a smile, husband, you really like children. So we have to work hard. You see how cute Ino is. Let's try to have the baby earlier so that our baby can marry her and go home. Feiju Dragonfly said with a smile. I hate it. Why are you saying it outside? It's so embarrassing. Chongpu looked at the bustling people around him, his face turned red, and he punched him in the heart. Night. Flying bamboo and dragonflies strive to create humans. A few more days passed. Analysis class. Have you heard that another genius was born in Uchiha? There are so many geniuses. Saishiman chatted with other colleagues. Flying bamboo dragonfly is also here 8 trigrams. Besides studying and working every day, what he likes most is listening to Konoha's 8 trigrams. Listening to familiar or unfamiliar names, familiar or unfamiliar events, makes him know a lot of interesting things. Jeong, what do you know again? Uchiha Itachi, do you know? Shanghaiman turned his eyes left and right, as if there was a secret. Everyone present was speechless. Who doesn't know? He graduated from school at the age of 7 last year. I heard that he has been using shadow clone in class at school. In the end, he was fighting with senior students and the teacher suddenly appeared, which caused him to be distracted, and the school discovered his amazing talent. This is a well-known thing. It was quite a lively meeting, just a little less than when Kakashi graduated at the age of 6. It seems that a few days ago, because his teammates were killed, he was so anxious that he even opened Sharingan. Shanghaiman sighed. In the end, did you kill your opponent? Someone asked. Shanghaiman spread his hands, I don't know. Hey! You don't know, you're just bragging, isn't it a Sharingan? As long as you become a ninja, you will be able to drive it sooner or later. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly nodded in agreement. Uchiha, who has ninja talents, can basically open his eyes. Then how do I know? I heard it's a secret. I heard from my aunt's cousin's brother-in-law's uncle that his daughter married Uchiha. Boring. My colleagues didn't catch a cold and thought it was something special about 8 trigrams. Petty Officer 2nd Class, I heard that you teach at a ninja school. You should have met Itachi. What is your opinion of him? Feiju Dragonfly asked curiously. Just like he occasionally works part-time as team leader to perform tasks, other chunin in the analysis class usually also work part-time. Nothing else, not during the war, free time. Ninjas have to make money too. Jeong started working in the ninja school right after the Nine Tails Rebellion. Others are also very interested. This is the 8 trigrams, one of the strongest families in Konoha. Jeong pushed up his glasses, the genius is even better than Kakashi. Also, please call me Captain, not Petty Officer 2nd Class. He also knew a few guys under his command, who trained him strictly and often called him by nicknames. Got it, Petty Officer 2nd Class. Oh, being able to compete with Kakashi is worthy of Uchiha, that's awesome. I'm so envious of the bloodstained family. Colleagues are very envious of the blood inheritance limit. If they also had it, the upper limit would definitely be higher. I wonder if he can block Captain Dragonfly's Narakumi no Jutsu, Kai. Suddenly a voice sounded, and the content in the words made everyone swallow their saliva, remembering the unpleasant smell. Impossible, that thing can't be blocked by humans at all, not even the Sharingan, I'm telling you. They have all competed with Flying Bamboo Dragonfly, and basically everyone has tasted the taste, which is simply worse than eating shit. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly was speechless. Why did he get involved? Isn't it just to let you taste the food you hate the most, right? Then it seems Captain Dragonfly is the best. Kakashi and Uchiha are all weak. Shanghaiman praised loudly. That's right, Kakashi, Uchiha, and Captain Dragonfly are the coolest. Ha ha ha, the analysis class is the best. In an instant, everyone was booing. It was very lively. But Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is very unhappy. This is not to kill him. It's just to let you taste the most unpleasant food. What's the matter? If I tell you more, I will let you try my newly developed Narakushin no Jutsu 2.0 Beijing bean juice, which contains the taste that I think is the most unpalatable, not what you think is the most unpalatable. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly smiled grimly. Whoosh. A moment. I remembered there was still work to do. Me too. Minister Hai said that he would like to ask for dinner, so he should leave first. I have to report to work, so I'm leaving now. Wow. All disappeared without a trace. A coward, a ninja, who can't even hold on to the taste of food, how can he withstand the torture of the enemy? Flying bamboos and dragonflies, disdain. I also want them to try the newly developed Genjutsu. Ninjas have experienced all kinds of physical torture, whether it is whipping or various painful points, they can endure it. That's why they are commonly known as ninjas. Based on this, he developed a food-flavored version of Genjutsu. That is Narakumi no Jutsu 2.0. Different from the first generation, it only arouses the taste of fear in the other party. Second generation can add the unpleasant taste that he collected. It happened that Tai had tasted Beijing bean juice in his previous life, so he added this unpleasant taste to Genjutsu. As long as the enemy is hit, Genjutsu will trigger the facial nerve and glossopharyngeal nerve in his body within 0.1 seconds, giving him the feeling of eating a lot of Beijing bean juice. Even if the enemy removes the influence of chakra and the taste has been produced, the enemy will also feel like he has eaten a lot of Beijing bean juice. 2 nerves went straight to my head. This is all the function of knowledge. Unlike other genjutsu, if it is solved, and if it is not solved, it is not solved. This genjutsu will also have an impact if it is solved, at most it will be weakened a little. Oh, it's a pity that I don't want to smell the smell of rotten eggs, otherwise it would definitely be better than Beijing bean juice. Flying bamboo dragonflies also have troubles. The advantages and disadvantages of this technique are the same, that is, you must have tasted the taste and have a deep understanding before the enemy can feel it. The difficulty of practicing is also relatively high, and you also need to have a sufficient understanding of the taste nervous system, which requires reading medical books. Even his current brain hurts when he reads most of the medical books. Also, Uchiha Itachi is being targeted by Obito now. He remembered the conversation just now. Uchiha Itachi had opened his eyes, and the interaction between Uchiha Shisui and him was about to begin. Fortunately, he was not born an Uchiha, and I felt lucky again. Otherwise, now he wouldn't have so much time to practice and study. While working, he had found a wife and was preparing to have children. Maybe his efforts have become stronger because he was overwhelmed by the genocide incident just after crossing time. In the original novel, there were not many famous people who were students in the same class as me and got married, right? I'm the winner. Episode 43. Team. Konoha. Hokage office. Dragonfly, I'll leave this task to you. Hiruzen Sarutobi handed him a document. Flying bamboo dragonfly took the file, opened it and looked at it. Above is a series of information. Umbu discovered the activities of the ninjas of the Kingdom of Thunder at the border between the Kingdom of Fire and the Kingdom of Iron, and they were quite large, as if they were testing them or something. The specific information was obtained by an Umbu ninja who was on the verge of life and death. For this information, Konoha also lost several elite spies. The village suspects that the Kingdom of Thunder wants to cut off the cooperation between the Kingdom of Fire and the Kingdom of Iron and cut off Konoha's largest supply line of ninja tools, so I want you to lead a team to strengthen patrols on the border of the Kingdom of Fire. You are a perceptive ninja, and I have confidence in your perceptual abilities. Sarutobi Hiruzen said seriously. Ninja strength is constructed from ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu intelligence, etc. Gen and Chunin, including Jonin, most of the strength relies on ninja tools. Once the supply is cut off, resulting in the lack of Konoha's ninja tools, it will weaken Konoha's strength. He cannot allow this. Most of the ore for ninja tools relies on cooperation with the Iron Kingdom, which is a serious matter. That barriers aren't teaching thing. Feiju Dragonfly scratched his head. Not long ago, he was asked to teach the barriers class, and now he was asked to do other tasks. It really disrupted the rhythm of his life. Moreover, the conflict with the Kingdom of Thunder is always dangerous and tiring. In addition to his efforts in creating humans these days, Akaris is already pregnant, so he doesn't want to leave Konoha and wants to spend more time with her. Put aside the barriers technique for now. The top priority is the border incident. This matter is particularly important. I have also arranged a few helpers to form a team with you. Sarutobi Hiruzen agreed. Helper? Well, 3 helpers, the 4 of you will form a patrol team. You also know the captain, Bayunzai. Sarutobi Hiruzen said. As for the other 2, you'll find out when we get together. He smiled. No, that's my teammate. Is it really okay for you to be so showy? Is this what a ninja should do? Do you know what impact the inaccurate intelligence will have on the mission? Flying bamboo dragonfly made 3 consecutive thoughts in her heart. Okay, but Lord Hokage, remember to help me find a companion to replace me, he said. Sarutobi Hiruzen was stunned when he heard this. If you have something to do, I can let them leave first, and you can postpone it for a few days. What's wrong? This kid doesn't look like the kind of person who refuses to perform tasks. Haha, that's nothing. It's just that my wife is pregnant and I don't want her to worry too much. You know, the ninja profession has never been safe. I'm afraid she'll be worried and nervous. Flying bamboo dragonfly smiled. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled. Okay, I will try my best to find someone to replace you and let you come back to accompany your wife. I understand this feeling. Thinking about it, he was not like this back then. Even now, he is still worried about whether Asuma, a country of fire, can cope with that kind of position. I was afraid that he would die in the capital of the Fire Nation. It was only now that his eldest daughter-in-law was pregnant that he felt relieved. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Whoosh. Flying bamboo dragonfly saw nothing happened and disappeared into Hokage's office. Walking on the main street of Konoha, bamboo dragonfly feels uncomfortable. I thought it was uncomfortable enough to have to work overtime, but I didn't expect it would be even worse. Guarding the border is the most tiring job besides spying, and it's also dangerous. Except for Morning, who were the other two teammates? Feiju Dragonfly guessed the possible ninjas. Kakashi, Shursui, Yamato. When he got home, he looked guilty at the calamus snorting in the sun at the door. Really, it's such a disgusting ninja world to have a pregnant wife at home and not be able to accompany her. Honey, I'm back. It's good to come back. Dad went out to buy groceries and said he would make a super delicious meal for me to eat, Calamus said with a smile. I touched my belly, full of love. Well, Dad has something to tell you when he comes back. What, you're going to guard the border? That's great, it's Hokage-sama's recognition of my son. Feiju Dongqing returned home from shopping for groceries, and Feiju Dragonfly was very happy to know that Feiju Dragonfly was about to perform a mission. What does it mean? It means that his son is more promising than him and actually carries out such a difficult task. Calamus also had a flash of worry, and then forced a smile and said, yes, don't worry, we will support you, but you must be careful. Well, I will definitely end the border mission as soon as possible. Feiju Dragonfly nodded. Sensing the changes in Calamus, he felt a little uncomfortable, but he still had to work for the sake of stability. After dinner, spend more time with Calamus before leaving. Accompanying her to go shopping cautiously, telling her some earthy love stories from her past life from time to make her laugh. According to Konoha's tradition, the border guards are replaced by a new group of people every 3 months, so I won't be able to see my wife for a while in the future, and Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is particularly fond of her. Let the worries in Calamus's heart gradually disappear. The next day. Morning. The sun shines on the main entrance of Konoha, and the door god duo is already standing guard. Whoosh. The flying bamboo dragonfly landed outside the gate, looked around, and saw a figure in front of him, with a high ponytail and a sword on his back. The back figure looked particularly calm in the morning light. Morning, Captain, long time no see. Flying bamboo dragonfly said. Bayun turned around in the morning and saw him smiling. Classmate Dragonfly, I haven't seen you for a long time, but you are still in high spirits. Haha, I'll give you a lot of advice on this mission. Apart from the school and the Nine Tails incident, Flying Bamboo Dragonfly has not seen Bayun Zanzu for a long time. Now it seems that he is getting more and more handsome. And he has the calmness of a mature man. Compared to Kakashi and him, his appearance is much more mature. As for the others, Mr. Hokage, it's true that he didn't tell me the names of the other two teammates and asked me to guess. It's shameless. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly complained. Suddenly. Behind him. Hey, Hokage-sama, be careful if he puts on your shoes, kid. A girl with gray-brown eyes, wearing a fishnet outfit under a ninja vest, and purple hair, it is obvious to the naked eye that she has strong capital. There was bubble gum blowing in his mouth. Snap. Look back. I should be 2 years older than you, little girl. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly recognized her, Orochimaru's little follower, who should not have reached Special Jonin yet. What did you say? Call me little girl, do you know who I am? Mitarashi's eyes widened, and he raised his brows and said angrily. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly looked amused, Sannin Orochimaru's little follower, and I'm married, and I'm about to have a child. You can even call me uncle, and I don't mind. Speaking of Orochimaru, Mitarashi Anko's bright face suddenly turned gloomy, and she clenched her hands, but after hearing the words behind her, she broke her guard. Look carefully at the person in front of you. His face is bandaged, and only his forehead protector and mouth can be seen. His body is slender. Humph, getting married will only hinder things and affect the path of the ninja, but you are actually very happy? Episode 44. Uchiha, Anko, and Bayun morning breakfast. Sister, you can't say that. Only by getting married and having offspring can the Hokage-sama's will of fire be passed down, right? With a table tennis pattern painted on the back, a boy about 1.4 meters tall appeared with melancholy eyes that seemed to contain many stories. I object to Mitarashi Anko's words. At the same time, I very much agree with Feiju Dragonfly's approach. Hey, kid, who are you? They can't be our teammates. If that's the case, you should go back and practice again. Border missions are not something you can do. Looking at such a young boy, Anko frowned. How could third generation send a guy of such a young age to carry out border missions? Isn't this just chaos? Bayun morning, okay, now that the team has been assembled, let me first introduce myself and what I am good at so that I can make arrangements. The young man said, you are all seniors, let me go first. Uchiha Itachi, who is good at analysis, fire style, shuriken, and Sharingan's insight, please take care of me. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly looked at this little kid, his eyes seemed like he hadn't slept for days and nights, and the bags under his eyes were bigger than his father's. Is this Uchiha Itachi when he was young? He was so ugly, and not as cute as Sasuke at all. It can also be seen that mature thinking is not good for children. To Flying Bamboo Dragonfly, Itachi is just a child now, regardless of whether he has Hokage thoughts at the age of 7. At the same time, I am also thinking about the purpose of third generation. Not long ago, he had killed his teammate in 8 trigrams, but he didn't expect that he would become his teammate today. Uchiha Obito, you won't do it again, will you? And at such a young age, third generation can safely be thrown to the border, or a border where local war may occur. Do you think they are enough? He looked at the others. He and I are both jonin in the morning, so he seems to trust them quite a bit. Mitarashi Anko, Chunin, is relatively balanced in all aspects, and has certain experience in combat reconnaissance. Mitarashi Anko frowned, but he didn't expect this little guy to be from Uchiha. Or the famous Uchiha Itachi. Graduating at the age of 7 is an incredible achievement. As for what it takes to conceive children to pass on the will, just talk about it. How can men be so easy to find? Thinking of this, she looked at Fei Bamboo Dragonfly. This guy is so lucky to have a wife. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly smiled and said, haha, Flying Bamboo Dragonfly is good at reading minds, and has certain attainments in Genjutsu. He is also a perceptive ninja, and he can do first aid on the battlefield without any problem. Upon hearing this, everyone's eyes fell on him. Very surprised. Bayun didn't expect him to know how to do first aid on the battlefield earlier this morning. It wasn't mentioned in third generation's information. It seems like this classmate learned a lot in third generation. I was also very happy. Although it was just battlefield first aid, it also gave the team a medical ninja, making it easier to perform tasks. Uchiha Itachi raised his head, senior is awesome. He actually knows so many things, and he seems to be an excellent ninja. And he is good at reading minds, so this mission will be easier than imagined. Mitarashi Anko said suspiciously, boy, are you bragging? If you want to know a little information gap, you will die. These words are very strong. She didn't believe that Feiju Dragonfly, who was 2 years older than her, could learn so many things. You must know that she studied under Orochimaru, and she doesn't know much now. I believe, senior. Itachi affirmed. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly grinned and said to Anko, how about I am Jonin and you are just Chunin? In a word. Let Anko get on top, you damn guy. She gritted her teeth. Jonin is amazing, sooner or later I will be a Jonin too. Wait until you become a Jonin. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly smiled. Okay, stop arguing, I am your captain. Bayun Zazeo, Konoha Jonin, is good at teleportation, Genjutsu, wind escape, and taijutsu. Now, check the ninja tool to see if there is anything missing. It's not that easy to supplement at the border. Finally he gave the order. The 3 of them stopped making noise and started checking their ninja bag. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly also inspected carefully. As a battlefield experience, it is necessary to check the ninja tools before performing the mission. Even though he is already very capable now, he can be careful and make no big mistakes. He didn't want Calamus to become a widow at such a young age. I haven't raised a son or daughter yet. Whoosh. After registering with the door god, the 4 of them set off immediately. Phew. The Kingdom of Thunder is in the northeast of the Kingdom of Fire, connected by a narrow continent. And their destination is the Iron Kingdom, which is connected to a narrow continent. Our mission this time is to deal with the ninjas from Cloud Hidden Village who have flowed into the Land of Fire. Find out why they came to the Land of Fire. Flying over the high mountains, Bayun slowly talked about the mission of this trip in the morning. Call out. Uchiha Itachi heard this and pondered, the biggest possibility is to cut off the ore supply of the Fire Country and the Iron Country. He may also want to cross the border and inquire about the internal intelligence of the Country of Fire. It would be better to take concrete measures against Konoha. Whoosh. We don't rule out the possibility of other villages causing trouble. For example, Yuno country is separated by the sea from Iron country, and Kirigakure village is opposite. I'm reading the heads brought back by my companions, or the memories of my enemies. I have learned that there seems to be intense turmoil within Kirigakure village. It is not ruled out that they want to supplement resources in this area. The trade relationship between the Kingdom of Water and the Kingdom of Tang has always been relatively good. It is not ruled out that they can use this as a bridge to covet the ore and the wealthy Iron Kingdom. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly also gave its own analysis. In other words, our biggest enemies may be Kumogakure's people. Maybe they are ninjas from Yugakure and Kirigakure? Mitarashi Anko frowned. This is troublesome. Originally, a country of thunder was very difficult, but now there are so many variables. They looked at the captain. Bayunzanji, well, the situation is a bit troublesome, so Master Hokage specially formed our special operations team. According to Hokage-sama's information, it can be confirmed that the enemy is eyeing our trade. If you want to take measures for Konoha economically and from a fundamental level. It was also because several trade lines suffered losses. The Iron Kingdom asked Konoha for help. Each of the 4 people spoke one word and went over the ins and outs of this mission. Except for the genius Uchiha Itachi, the 3 of Feiju and Dragonfly were all veterans of World War III, so they quickly discussed several methods. Flying Bamboo Dragonflies are very comfortable with this. Whether it's Anko studying under Orochimaru, Jonin Hakuin Morning, or the genius Uchiha Itachi. They are all first-class teammates. Reassuring. There won't be scenes like Naruto, where he often gets into arguments with his teammates. He lamented that it was indeed the 3rd generation and that it was well thought out. Unlike the depiction in anime, which is all about the protagonist's vision, reality is much more complicated than that. Or trading. It is one of the foundations for the strength of the major ninja villages. Without the source of ore for making ninja tools, the strength of the ninja villages will be reduced by more than 1/5. This is what Feiju Dragonfly has learned over the years. Even if he thinks he has some talent, even the 3rd generation, 4th Hokage, etc., their combat power will be greatly reduced if they lose their ninja tools. I hope the mission goes well. Flying bamboos and dragonflies flew on the tree trunks, praying silently. As soon as he left Konoha, he already missed his wife. Episode 45. Taste the saltiness of my Genjutsu. 2.5 days. The 4 of them hurriedly and slowly arrived at the border. The handover was completed with the ninjas stationed in the country of fire. There are no bunkers or anything like that here. There are tall trees and tall trees. There are only resting places for ninjas at some distance. Because we have to patrol, we won't be fixed in one place. The area they were stationed at was the border with the Kingdom of Iron, and there were other ninjas stationed at other borders. Senior Dragonfly. I was wondering if I could ask you a question? After completing the handover, Feizu Kinking, who was resting, saw Uchiha Itachi coming to him. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly was stunned. Are you asking? He was also curious about what was wrong with this genius after just a one-time encounter. What do you think the Will of Fire is? Itachi asked an unexpected and expected question. He wanted to know what other people thought of the village. Especially when he heard that the senior in front of him was the successor and leader of Konoha's Will of Fire. Since graduation, he has been a staunch executor of the Will of Fire. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly glanced at him unexpectedly. 3rd generation was right, this person had a mature will at a young age. He didn't ask direct questions about the village and family, but made indirect remarks. With the memory of reading the original work and the study of ninja qualities in the past few years, he understood this idea clearly. The Will of Fire is to protect the village and the family. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly's answer is simple: obey yourself. He doesn't have any ideas about changing the world, and what he said is just commonplace. What if I have to choose between the village and my family? Itachi continued to ask. Feiju Dragonfly raised his eyebrows. He was praising you just now, but he couldn't help it so quickly. It seems that his thoughts are mature, but he is still young after all. At such a young age, why do you think so much? You will only consume yourself internally. This little time is not as good as strengthening yourself. Fei Bamboo Dragonfly did not answer directly, and he did think that internal friction at this age was terrible. I'm afraid Itachi's future illness is caused by internal friction since childhood. And he had no intention of making a choice for Itachi. When Uchiha Itachi heard this, he didn't speak, his eyes quietly looked at the flying bamboo dragonfly. It seemed that something must be taken out of his mouth. Flying bamboo dragonfly was shocked by the sight, raised his eyebrows and said, "Boy, if you look at me like this again, I will make you suffer. I'm afraid you don't know that when I was in the analysis class. Those guys are so afraid of me, even the captain of the Ghost Petty Officer 2nd class. Faced with my suffering, I was also trembling. You think you are a late-stage ferret, but beating you now is like beating a child. We are companions." Uchiha Itachi was indifferent to his words. I don't believe that he would attack his companions. Yes, I want to know too. Mitarashi Anko sat on the tree trunk, crossed her slender legs, blew bubble gum and said curiously. Flying bamboo dragonfly picked up the telescope and scanned the surroundings from time to time. I want you to taste the pain. Let me answer your questions again so that you don't have such boring questions later. As he said this, in the astonished eyes of the two people, he formed a seal with one hand. The two were just about to make a move. Illusory. The world is spinning. What appeared in front of Uchiha Itachi was endless grilled meat. Although he wanted to control himself, his body still couldn't help but ate it. On Mitarashi Anko's side was the red and very beautiful devil chili pepper. In her horrified eyes, Chili Pepper sprouted arms and legs and jumped into her mouth. Outside the spiritual world, both of their bodies twitched in unison, and Anko became red all over. Itachi kept frowning. Hey, the most disgusting food is actually just unpalatable? Flying bamboo dragonfly looked at Itachi's physical performance and expressed surprise. It seems that I live a very healthy life and I haven't eaten any bad food. Looking at Mitarashi Anko again, her whole body was red and undulating, and her mouth had signs of a sausage mouth. This is a typical example of the mind affecting the body. It seems that the most disgusting food made a deep impression on her. The corner of his mouth curled up, asking you to ask such a sensitive question. Do you still dare to be reluctant? In order to prevent them from asking such questions that had nothing to do with the mission in the future, Feiju Dragonfly decided to teach them a lesson. Of course, before they had enough of the taste, Feiju Dragonfly did not forget his duties. He did not miss the observation of his surroundings. While waiting for the two to release Genjutsu, he used his perception ability to sense the surrounding area for tens of miles. After years of practice, physical energy and spiritual energy are not the same. The chakra in the body is now even richer than Kakashi. Perception of distance has also become stronger. From the first mile to now 10 miles. Not as good as Naruto in the later period, but not bad either. Occasionally, some ninja beasts flew past his perception. If it weren't for his eye-catching skills, he would have really wanted to catch a few psychic beasts. And Captain Bai Yunqian, who had just gone out to patrol after handing over, also entered his perception at this time. Very dedicated. It feels like he is more dedicated than the man who vowed to be a worker. It is simply the holy body of a natural cow and horse. However, he did not dare to underestimate this classmate. He was the fastest person to be promoted to Jonin after Kakashi. They are talking about this session. Genjutsu? The moment Uchiha Itachi entered the spiritual space, he realized that this was a Genjutsu. But before he could lift it, enough roast meat was stuffed into his mouth. It was too late, he still got the barbecue. This food is the most unpleasant to him, but he can tolerate it. The young mind is running at high speed. He actually took action against his companions. Is his will of fire fake? Did he fool third generation? No, impossible. According to what he said, he already has a wife and will have children soon. How could a ninja without the will of fire have such obvious weaknesses? As far as he knew, none of the rebel ninjas in Konoha had any heirs. Is that what he wants to tell himself, that the will of fire belongs to him? Do you have to make your own decisions about anything? Also, the barbecue is terrible. Damn, what is this Genjutsu? Mitarashi's red bean mental space was eating fiery red chili peppers, and he couldn't hold on any longer. Finally, with his strong will, he suppressed the pain caused by the pepper. Burst chakra disarms Genjutsu. My vision returned to my body, I felt the burning sensation in my body, and I couldn't help but feel angry when I looked at the flying bamboo and dragonflies that were sensing the surroundings. She yelled, "Hey, I'm just curious, how come I'm involved in this?" Flying bamboo dragonfly put down the telescope and said sheepishly, "It's nothing, I just want to show you the abilities I am good at, and the answer to this question. If you still dare to ask such boring questions in the future, I will let you try my ultimate Genjutsu." Hum hum. Then he looked at Itachi, who had broken the Genjutsu. Episode 46. Patrol, Caravan. Itachi stared at him. It seemed that he was unmoved by his words and was still waiting for Fey Bamboo Dragonfly's answer. What a stubborn boy. The so-called will of fire is to protect what you want to protect. As for the choice between family and village, it is not within my scope. With this time to think about it, maybe we can surpass the first generation Senju Hashirama Senpai and your family's Uchiha Madara Senpai and achieve the power to take care of both. Choices are for the weak, but the strong want them all. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly said slowly. Susanoo Buddha, 2 people destroyed the 4 kingdoms. Who dares to object, and who can object? Uchiha Itachi's eyes moved. He felt that Senior Dragonfly was right, but he didn't think that anyone could be invincible. Therefore, when the relationship between the village and the family cannot be relaxed, it is necessary to choose one of the two. He secretly remembered Fey Bamboo Dragonfly's words in his heart, and at the same time, he also knew that he would not get much inspiration from this senior. But he will not give up on becoming a bond and easing the relationship between the family and the village. Mitarashi Anko stopped her angry face and sneered, "What you think is so beautiful, even the 3rd Hokage-sama can't do this. Even the 4th generation, Sannin, are careful on the battlefield, and they still have to make choices when necessary." Even she had to choose between Orochimaru and the village, and in the end she chose the village. Orochimaru also has to make a choice between the village and his own ambitions. So I said this is a very boring question for you, especially Itachi, who looks like he must know. Feiju Dragonfly said helplessly. People's will is different. You can only get reference, but others can't help you make a decision. You have to rely on yourself. Finally, he pointed to his head and said to Itachi. I understand, Senior Dragonfly. Realizing that there was no point in asking, Itachi simply decided. Hey, don't think that what happened just now is over. Sooner or later, I'm going to beat you up. Hondo thought of the scene of eating chili, with tears in his eyes. It was so uncomfortable. Quack. Goo goo. The sounds of animals sounded from time to time in the forest. Okay, it's almost time to rest. It's time for us to start work. We're not here to chat. Let's see how motivated the captain is. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly felt the recovery of physical strength and spoke. Complete the task quickly so that you can return to Konoha before the next handover. Uchiha Itachi and Anko also got serious. Clear. This is the new technology from the Fire Country, radio. Feiju Dragonfly threw an instrument to the 2 of them that was worn around the neck. The instrument was like the earphones hung around the neck in the previous life, but smaller. Radio? The 2 took over the radio and observed carefully. Curved and round shape. Well, it's a new thing that was only released in the past year, but it's bulky and has a connection range of only 1 kilometer, but it's better than nothing. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly nodded. This was something he bought in the Land of Fire, but the technology is still a bit behind now, and its small range and bulkiness are its shortcomings. There is also the advantage that within a short distance, they can be contacted at any time. Try it. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly explained how to use it to the 2, and then moved away from a distance to check. Hey, can you hear me? The sound of flying bamboo and dragonflies came from Weasel's neck, and it was very clear. He looked around and made sure that the flying bamboo dragonfly was not talking around, and that all the sounds were coming from the things on his neck. Eyes gradually brighten. Following the tutorial of flying bamboo dragonfly, I fiddled with it. Received. Oh, what a good thing, why haven't I noticed it before? I will have to have one when I lead the team in the future. Just after saying a few words, Hondo's voice came out from inside. Everyone patrols in his own way, and does not extend the radio range. If any abnormalities are found, report them in time. Bayun also said a voice in the morning. Hey, Captain, why do you have one too? Because the captain and I are classmates, for such a convenient thing, we naturally need to communicate with the captain first. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly said. Sky, white clouds. Wow. That is the only road for trade between the Iron Country and the Fire Country. It is about 3 kilometers away and is the location where the trade convoy was robbed. The flying bamboo dragonfly sat on the flying eagle and inspected the surroundings with a telescope. A huge road appeared in front of us, with tall trees on both sides. The road stretched very, very long. This is already their 5th day of patrolling the border, and there is still no progress. The flying bamboo dragonfly's perception, Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan, Enko's legless creature detection, the captain's rich experience. I couldn't find any clues. He even got permission from the captain to see the route from the Kingdom of Iron to the Kingdom of Fire. Huh? That's a caravan for the ore trade? Suddenly, a motorcade came into view. There were about 50 people, a dozen carriages, and escorting ninjas patrolling the surrounding area. Judging from his cautious appearance, he must have known about the recent problem. Flying bamboo dragonfly pressed the radio. A mining convoy of about 50 people has entered the patrol range. The possibility of interception and killing by the enemy cannot be ruled out. Receive. 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 After getting a reply and confirming that there was no problem with the voices, he turned his attention to the motorcade, recorded the number of people, the number of vehicles, their faces, and the traces left by the passing carriages, and used polar coordinate equations to write down the picture in his mind in a two-dimensional manner. And get out a pen and paper and write it down. It's a little unusual. He looked at the data in his hand and found that several people had unnatural expressions on their faces, and their eyes were looking around, very vaguely. From time to time, his eyes would fall on the patrolling guard ninjas. When Mienpi looked at the carriage, he would show an unsuitable micro-expression. It was normal at first, but when all the data was piled together, it looked a little abnormal. Then he controlled the flying eagle, came to the sky above a forest, and slowly descended. Bayun and the 3 of them were already waiting in the morning. Have you discovered the situation? Bayun asked in the morning. Well, according to my analysis, this convoy is being targeted and there are spies inside. If the guess is correct, someone will launch an attack some distance away in a narrower area. Flying bamboo dragonfly recalled carefully and said to the captain after confirming that there was nothing wrong. Huh? How can you tell that there is a spy in that convoy from a long distance? Honda was very curious when he heard this. Itachi also looked at him. If he had already been in contact, he would definitely tell his teammates. If he didn't tell it, it means he discovered it during his observation. Flying bamboo dragonfly, transformation technique, no matter what kind of transformation technique, is to transform into a reference object. Among the people who just appeared, some of them had wrong micro-expressions. Normal humans cannot make that kind of expression. It's caused by the lack of transformation skills. Moreover, there is a good ambush location ahead, and with our previous intelligence, we can analyze something. Of course, I do not rule out the possibility that I made a mistake, but it does not matter. It proves that the team is safe. All data forms a closed loop, just like police evidence. As long as the closed loop is completed, the probability is infinitely close to 100%. Episode 47. Enemy attack. Whoosh. With the information from flying bamboo dragonfly, the 4 of them quickly moved towards the direction of the convoy. Uchiha Itachi stared at the flying bamboo dragonfly in front of him. I am in awe of this senior's analytical ability. Hide information and design traps. Bayun raised his hand in the morning and signaled several people to take action. Phew. Several people acted together and set up quite a trap in a short period of time. Flying bamboo and dragonflies are also carefully arranged. Seal. A giant pangolin appears and penetrates the ground. He restored the flat grassland of the land and arranged some detonating charm traps in other places. Barriers trap. He has become accustomed to these, and does not have the amount of chakra that Senju Hashirama has. This chakra-saving tactic is inevitable. Don't you see me? Haiden was killed by Shikamaru's trap. If it were a war of attrition, Shikamaru would definitely lose. So he learned his lesson and couldn't be reckless. He still has his wife waiting at home. Whoosh. Dark shadows flickered. A team moved quickly through the dark shade of the trees. Captain, Konoha should already know the information now, right? Why take such a big risk? Get hands on supplies, said one person. The leader was a strong man, with muscles oozing from his arms, but his mouth was not reckless. Information about the village. Konoha's recovery has accelerated in the past 2 years, and we must stop the speed of Konoha's recovery of strength. I see. According to the information given to me by the spies, After we arrived at our destination, the time should be around the time when the convoy arrived. Are there any Konoha ninjas ambushing them? Someone worried. Humph, at most it's the border patrol of the country of fire. According to normal circumstances, they are all in groups of 4. There are 8 of us here, and we will all die if we come here. That's right, and the people in Konoha are quite weak, and they can't compare to our muscles. Don't be careless, there might be some trap. Arrive. They came to a corner, hid in the treetops, looked at the road outside, and laid a trap. The 4 of them were hiding in the darkness, beside the road. Bayun felt the quality of his teammates in the morning and was very satisfied. Everyone's breath-holding ability doesn't feel unfamiliar. Especially Uchiha Itachi, who is only 8 years old, is really a genius for being able to do this. Flying bamboo and dragonfly seal perception. The black and white perception interface spreads with a circle as the center. Suddenly, 8 blue sources of chakra appeared in his mind. There are enemies, 8 of them, coming at a very fast speed from the 7 o'clock direction. It is estimated that they will arrive before the convoy arrives. They are all elites, so be careful. Flying bamboo dragonfly said cautiously. Is the opponent's chakra strong? Bayun asked in the morning. He knows the perception ability of the flying bamboo dragonfly, mainly to perceive chakra. The basic abilities of ninjas are based on chakra. From a person's chakra strength, you can infer the strength of the enemy. Chakra cannot determine a person's strength, but a strong chakra will never be too weak. Well, there are 2 people with similar strength to us, they should be the captains of the 2 teams. Flying bamboo dragonfly explained the situation. Anko and Itachi also had expressions on their faces. Is this the intensity of the first battle while patrolling the border? Bayun frowned in the morning. Since the opponent's chakra strength is similar, we have to calculate based on the opponent having more than 2 jonin. Can you hold someone off? Do you want to solve one as soon as possible and then support me? Don't worry, just leave one of them to me. You solve it as soon as possible and go support them both. Flying bamboo dragonfly pointed at a genin and chunin beside him. Indeed, even if the enemy's strength is only 2 jonin, there are still 2 out of the 4 who are not very strong. As for himself, he is very confident. Even if Hokage comes, he can delay it for a while. A smart mind with many means self-confidence. The rest of Anko-senpai and I should be fine. Itachi suddenly said. His tone was very confident. However, Mitarashi Anko was not so confident. The enemies of the 2 teams are not sure to be solved, even if the genius boy Itachi is added to them. She had no confidence in Itachi's strength, because he was too young. Itachi's eyes changed, and 2 Magatama Sharingan appeared. In front of these eyes, as long as the gap in number and strength is not too big, there will be no problem. Sharingan. Mitarashi Anko was surprised. He didn't expect Uchiha to activate Sharingan at such a young age. What a genius. Uchiha really produces talents every year. And he's only 8 years old. Flying bamboo dragonfly looked at Schwangoyu's Sharingan and praised, I'll leave those little bastards to you. You are very good. I heard that Uchiha Madara also started Sharingan at the age of 15. You've been blessed with twins since you were 8 years old, and your future is bright. He was also surprised. It seemed that the excitement of his previous teammate's death was quite strong. I dare not compare with my ancestors, Itachi said. Bayun Zanzu, very good, with Sharingan, it should be no problem to hold the enemy back, and we have made traps in advance, so it should be no problem. Although I said this, I was already prepared for emergency situations. The flying bamboo dragonfly suddenly turned pale. Here we come. Ta ta ta. The convoy came slowly from a distance, with some ninja warriors guarding it from behind. The carriage pressed against the ground and made a creaking sound, showing the pressure on it. The leader was a rough-faced uncle, wearing an exquisite kimono, commanding people from time to time. Suddenly. Phew. Whoosh. The forests on both sides suddenly shot out dense shurikens and kunai. Enemy attack. When these 2 words were shouted, several guards died on the spot. Honorary guards also responded one after another. Sizzle. During their tense moment, several people in the convoy suddenly released thunder and lightning with their hands, releasing it in the crowd. Bang bang. The person who was hit fell to the ground charred. Come here, kill them for me. The leader, the hairy-faced uncle, not only did not panic when he saw the enemy, he even began to order his men to fight back. Damn it, you dare to attack the great nobles of the Iron Country. I will let you have a taste of my swordsmanship. The uncle drew out his sword, made an "Iai" gesture, and when the shuriken approached, he knocked it out accurately. The sudden rebellion of his subordinates in the convoy made him even more furious. Whoosh! 8 figures appeared from the darkness, with swords in hand and lightning style assisting them. The team of more than 50 people soon had only about 10 guards left. Zitzi. I'm sorry, who asked you to trade with the country of fire? At the head was a jet-black middle-aged man with an afro, surrounded by thunder and lightning. Who are you? Do you know who I am? If you offend me, you will not end well. The hairy-faced uncle looked furious. Really? Lightning style, thunder arrow. Episode 48. Dislocation of sight distance. You dare to run wild on the border of our country of fire. Are you looking down on our Konoha too much? Just when the Kumogakure ninja was about to use his lightning style to kill everyone in the convoy, a voice sounded in the sky that startled them. Looking up, a huge toad fell from the sky. Disperse. Leader Kumogakure put away lightning style and dispersed with the others. Bang! There was a huge burst of smoke. A giant 3-meter-tall toad landed in front of the motorcade, and a flying bamboo dragonfly stood on it, smiling. The first step in tactics is to disperse the enemy and succeed. As for Yunin's people, while retreating, their eyes were also very alert. In addition to paying attention to this enemy falling from the sky, there are also movements around you. Obviously has a lot of combat experience. Whoosh! In the morning, when the leader of Kumogakure retreated, Bayun exploded and turned into countless fallen leaves. When he reappeared, the sword in his hand had already been slashed towards the enemy's neck. Clang! At the critical moment, the enemy was not easy to mess with, so he also pulled out the knife from his waist and blocked the attack. Wind escape, breakthrough. Bayun formed a seal with one hand in the morning, and a storm of wind hit the enemy's body. Zitzi. Leader Yunin felt the stinging pain in his body and looked at the traces of blood on it with solemn eyes. Looking at the other person's forehead protector, are you from Konoha? With the power of Feng Dun's breakthrough, he quickly retreated into the forest, hoping to fight guerrilla warfare in the forest. Tree binding technique. A Yunin stepped away, turned around when he heard the voice, and saw a pair of red eyes in front of him. Then his whole body stiffened, and a big tree grew up behind him, and its branches wrapped around him. Genjutsu. Bah! Just as he was about to remove the Genjutsu, a giant python appeared and bit his head. Sizzle. Beheaded. The blood rises to the sky under the pressure of the heart. Uchiha's brat, you are cooperating well. Mitarashi Anko threw the head to the ground, and the giant python turned back into an arm. She looked at Uchiha Itachi, praised. Damn it, it's the enemy. Several of Kumogakure's ninjas saw one of their companions dead, their eyes showing anger. This time they did not give Anko and Itachi a chance to besiege them, but instead besieged them both. Clang. Bang bang. Sizzle. Boom. Your opponent is me. Flying bamboo dragonfly controlled the toad under him to jump, blocking the guy who wanted to support other ninjas, who was suspected to be Jonin. This is a dark-skinned man with black hair and scars on his face. He carried a pair of swords on his back without a forehead protector. He watched the flying bamboo dragonflies with great vigilance. There is also his 3-foot-tall toad psychic beast, whose eyes fall on the 2 battlefields in the distance from time to time. Humph, looking for death. Kawasuki formed a seal with his hands, gathered chakra at his mouth, and shot bamboo dragonflies with a spear of lightning. Whoosh! You're too anxious. The flying bamboo dragonfly formed a seal with its hands, like an afterimage, completed before the attack came. Wind escape, breakthrough. Feng Clay, the spear was immediately defeated by his wind escape, and continued to attack Kawasuki. Whoosh! Kawasuki's lightning style was just a feint attack. Before the breakthrough of Feng Dun came, he left the place and moved quickly towards Feiju Dragonfly. He pulled out the 2 knives behind him. Thunder and lightning surround the 2 swords. This guy is a wind release ninja. He must concentrate on fighting and pay attention to his psychic beast. Kawasuki looked at the big toad at the feet of the flying bamboo dragonfly and made a silent analysis in his mind. The moment Fei Bamboo Dragonfly used his wind escape, he knew that being restrained, he was at a disadvantage in long-distance combat. Make a prompt decision. Get close to the enemy quickly. Zitzi. Lightning active cells, his speed is very fast. Just as he was approaching the flying bamboo dragonfly, his eyes were always paying attention to the enemy. Suddenly, flying bamboo dragonfly hands and seal. It's Feng done again, he thought to himself. Then I'm sorry, you have to die in my hands. After preparing for a long time, he found that the expected attack did not come until he approached the opponent's psychic beast. Slash with a knife. Empty. Split again. Null. Split again. What's going on? Kawasuki found that no matter how he slashed, the blade was still an inch away from the toad. Even if lightning is raging on the knife, it is still an inch different. But his rich combat experience made him think of a possibility. Thunder body charge. The chakra in the body turns into thunder and lightning, disrupting one's own chakra. Suddenly the situation in front of me changed. His pupils shrank, it's indeed Genjutsu. There was nothing close in front of him. He had only moved 2 steps and was still 10 meters away from the flying bamboo dragonfly. Visual Genjutsu? Hey, that's good. My sight distance is misaligned. Genjutsu, it's my first actual combat. It's really amazing that you broke me in such a short time. The flying bamboo dragonfly stood on the toad's head and smiled. Genjutsu didn't want much chakra, so he wanted to experiment it on the battlefield. It was better than he imagined. As for the toad under him, it was just a psychic beast that imitated Jiraiya through the memories collected in the past. Come again. Boom. Sizzle. Thunder and lightning roared, physical attacks were exchanged, and giant beasts besieged them. Hereby. Uchiha Itachi raised his head, and the blade passed through his broken hair, scattering it in the air. The kunai in both hands are flying, and at the moment when the enemy is about to stop them, they collide with each other and attack the enemy at a tricky angle. Clang clang clang. Are these physical skills and sword skills really from Kumogakure? Itachi frowned inwardly when he saw that his technique was easily blocked. Even for Sharingan, it would be difficult to win against so many enemies. We have to think of other ways. His eyes fell on Hondo. At this time, she was also quite embarrassed and had many wounds on her body. If it weren't for the opponent's unique snake-type secret technique, most of his body might have been paralyzed by the enemy's lightning style. The number of enemies also increased from 6 to 11. Because in addition to what was originally perceived, there were also 5 spy ninjas in the convoy. Added together. Otherwise, he and Anko shouldn't be in such an awkward situation. Far away. Mitarashi Anko's latent shadow multi-snake hand forced the enemy back, looked at Itachi, and slowly retreated to the forest behind according to the rhythm of the battle. Phew. Lightning style, shuriken, kunai. The fighting was fierce for a while. Sir, do we want to help? When the guards of the hairy-faced uncle saw the ninja wearing a Konoha forehead protector leading the enemy away, one of his subordinates spoke up. If the people of Konoha failed, it would be their turn. The others frowned. The hairy-faced uncle saw that he was saved, but he was still in a bad mood. No, just wait here, we can't suffer any more losses. Looking at the messy land around him, there were several broken carriages, dead guards, and servants. He feels distressed. It's all because Konoha arrived too slowly. Hearing this, the other guards also hurriedly said, yes, 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 let them fight, and we will act accordingly. It's only a few dollars a month, what are you doing with your life? They all looked at the guard who asked for it just now, with dissatisfaction in their eyes. Episode 49. Exhausted Uchiha Itachi. Boom. The 2 figures approaching rapidly, the collision of kunai and swords sent out sparks. The giant dragonfly fell from the sky and attacked Kawasuki with 6 hands. Another flying eagle hovers in the sky, ready to attack at any time. This made Kawasuki very distressed. The psychic beasts summoned by the enemy seem to be elites who have experienced hundreds of battles and have rich combat experience. Every desired attack will be predicted in advance, or another flying eagle waiting for an opportunity will swoop down in the sky and disrupt the rhythm of the battle. It made his physical skills miserable. And the leader's strength is not bad either. He can use Laolu in Genjutsu, Taijutsu, and Wind Release. He has suffered a lot in this battle so far. Especially his Genjutsu, after he was hit by it, he had eaten something worse than shit. He didn't know what it smelled like. It smelled like beans, but not much. If Kumogakure's ninjas hadn't always been at the forefront in terms of physique and will, they would have been eliminated by the opponent's Genjutsu. Clang. Bang! Flying bamboo dragonfly stepped back, glanced behind Kawasuki, and formed seals with his hands. Kawasuki, who had been paying attention to the flying bamboo dragonfly, saw him forming the seal, and immediately became vigilant, ready to remove Genjutsu at any time. He had suffered a lot just now without paying attention. Let's scatter, Senbon Sakura. As the flying bamboo and dragonfly seals were completed, many cherry blossoms suddenly fell from the sky. The pink cherry blossoms looked extremely beautiful during the battle. Flying bamboo dragonfly pointed, and countless cherry blossoms surged towards the enemy. Some leaves fell on the path of the cherry blossoms. Wow! Leaves, bark, trees. Any object that touches the cherry blossoms will be cut open by the cherry blossoms instantly, and every petal of the cherry blossoms is like a magical weapon. Kawasuki naturally noticed this. The lightning stimulated the cell activity and quickly retreated. Keenly, he has discovered that this is the wind release ninjutsu. If you use lightning style to resist, you will fall into the opponent's trap. Moreover, the opponent has Genjutsu attached to it, so once it is hit, it will be doomed. Years of experience on the battlefield allowed him to retreat quickly, intending to attack from other directions or use more targeted spells. Whoosh! It's fast, but... The flying bamboo dragonfly saw this and smiled slightly. Boom! Just 10 meters behind Kawasuki, a pangolin suddenly emerged from the ground and bit Kawasuki on the waist. Tear it apart. Starting from the flying bamboo dragonfly, Genjutsu was used to pave the way, wind escape was induced, and the pangolin came out, but it was just a flash of lightning. Kawasuki had already been bitten off at the waist. Damn it. Kawasuki was unwilling to accept it, and was actually plotted against him. Looking at the flying bamboo dragonfly in the distance, even if it can't kill you, it will kill you as a psychic beast. Zitzi! The two separated halves suddenly erupted with violent lightning, and a radius of several meters was filled with lightning. The pangolin had no time to escape and was scorched black by the electricity. Just before Kawasuki finally lost consciousness, he saw, the pangolin turned into a broken bamboo weave. In the dangerous ninja world, you really have to be careful. Everyone has a unique skill. Flying bamboo dragonfly felt that the enemy chakra had completely disappeared, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Jonin is Jonin, and even he can't take it down in a short time without intelligence. And this last move may have been ninjutsu, who was at the bottom of the box and perished together. Fortunately, he has strong perception and many methods. Humogakure's will and methods are more restrained than my Genjutsu. The reason why so many methods were used just now was something Fei Zhu and Dragonfly didn't expect. Genjutsu is so severely restrained in Kumogakure Jonin. Genjutsu such as fear, nausea, pain, etc., the opponent can suppress and break the Genjutsu with a strong will. It seems like his Genjutsu still has a lot of room for improvement. Even his method that can make people subconsciously activate Genjutsu on themselves continuously has been continuously broken by the opponent. Born once and broken once. It can only temporarily disrupt the opponent's rhythm and increase consumption. There is no ability to determine victory or defeat with one blow. This made him realize that his Genjutsu still had flaws, and he could only help it now. Fortunately, his methods are diverse and not limited to Genjutsu. But it's not okay to have such a big flaw with the biggest advantage. If every ninja with the same willpower as Jonin could survive his Genjutsu, it would not be a waste of his advantage as a perceptive ninja. Flying bamboo dragonfly is not bad in other aspects, but compared to Genjutsu, the gap is still quite big. Genjutsu wants to develop in a hidden, hard-to-detect, and irreversible way. Or develop it externally, similar to the ability of eye-dotting skills. These are his assumptions. Concealment is difficult to detect. It means controlling the five senses, form, shape, touch, and quality, and making adjustments to allow the enemy to misjudge distance, timing, and other subtle details. The visual distance dislocation that was used just now was developed in this area, and there has been some progress. The irreversible aspect is memory installation. Using the mind-reading technique in reverse was the ultimate method of inserting it into history. However, during the development process, it was discovered that it was not feasible to use it in combat. The enemy's resistance will greatly reduce the magic. The invasion must be gradual and cannot be completed in a short time. The progress is not very great now. Genjutsu's ability to make things look real is like the finishing touch. He has already had the inspiration. Genjutsu controls the world, which is exciting just thinking about it. Just like Kurama Yakumo in the original work, Genjutsu controls the weather of heaven and earth perfectly. These thoughts all flashed through Fei Bamboo Dragonfly's mind. Clang. There was still a battle going on in the distance, and he formed a seal to sense it. It is discovered that the captain's enemy, chakra, has gradually weakened, and it depends on the situation that he will win. As for Uchiha Itachi and Anko, it seems very difficult. But yes, there are more than a dozen enemies, but the two of them can persist until now. Not bad. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly sensed the situation and smiled. Whoosh. Then rushed to support. Whoosh. Anko and Itachi were back to back, and their clothes were in tatters. His hands and body were dripping with blood, and he was breathing heavily. The little weasel still had a serious look on his face, as if he was still thinking of ways to deal with the enemy. Hongdo looked at the enemy surrounding them and panted, "Damn it, why haven't Captain and Feiju Dragonfly solved it yet? There is no way, Jonin should be more difficult to solve than us." Uchiha Itachi said softly. His body was already at its limit. With an 8-year-old body and frequent use of Sharingan, chakra could no longer hold on. Even Hongdo is exhausted now. Certainly. The opposite side is not much better. After the trap set by the two of them, there were now only 6 people left from 11. But it's still in much better shape than the two of them. Are we going to die here? Hongdo muttered. After careful observation, Kumogakure's ninjas discovered that these two little ones were at the end of their tether. Look at each other. One after another began to form seals. Episode 50. Uchiha Itachi God stabs the heart. Boom. Behind a Kumogakure Chunin, a pangolin emerged from the ground, and while Jane was distracted, his chest was pierced by its claws. Others were shocked and broke out in cold sweat. Call out. Another person had a kunai penetrate his chest. Only then did the others react, retreat quickly, and focus their eyes on one place. A figure slowly came out carrying a corpse, accompanied by a pangolin behind him. Kawasuki-sama. Kumogakure looked at the corpse in his hand in horror. Lord Kawasuki, who had made great contributions to Kumogakure, was actually turned into a corpse by the enemy at this time, and everyone wanted to retreat. Itachi and Anko looked at the person and breathed a sigh of relief. Just when Yunin's eyes were focused, the flying bamboo dragonfly formed the seal. Magic tree binding killing. Wow. The remaining 4 people were surrounded by long trees behind them, and their limbs were revealed. This made them all look horrified. This Genjutsu can keep the enemy sane, so they all know that they have been hit by Genjutsu. However, with the flying bamboo dragonfly's current Genjutsu attainments and the fact that it has been fighting for a period of time, it is too consumed for them. How can they break it? Damn it, chakra isn't used to thunder body charge enough. The 4 of them struggled hard, trying to crack it with brute force. Flying bamboo dragonfly shook his head. The function of Genjutsu is to restrain oneself, not the enemy. Without breaking it, even if they are physical skills masters like Kai, they cannot break it with brute force. I looked at the nearby battlefield, the environmental damage caused by shurikens, kunai, and ninjutsu, and habitually reviewed it in my mind using mathematics, geography, and experience. Then he looked at his 2 teammates and bared his teeth and smiled. Oh, that's good. Not only did the 2 of them defeat 5 enemies, but they can even persist until now. They are worthy of being my teammates. After being rescued, Itachi and Anko felt relieved and sat down on the ground to rest. Hearing what Feiju Dragonfly said, Hongdo rolled his eyes, stopped talking sarcastically. If you come a little later, we will be finished. Whoosh. She was exhausted. Uchiha Itachi looked at the flying bamboo dragonfly, and then at the 4 enemies who seemed to be entangled in something and couldn't move. Konoha's traditional Genjutsu, is it bound to kill? He made a judgment in his mind. At the same time, I have a higher evaluation of flying bamboo dragonfly in my heart. Not only does he have his own will of fire, but is he even taking action? Recall what Feiju Dragonfly said before, if you have the power of first generation and Grandpa Uchiha, you can protect both the village and your family. The flying bamboo dragonfly has the current strength, probably because it is upholding the will of fire. Can I do it? Itachi shook his head inwardly. Even first generation and Grandpa Uchiha had to negotiate with other countries, so how could they have the strength to protect everything? Didn't they also die in the battle? There is no record of the 2 elders who founded Konoha dying of old age in the records circulated in Konoha, including Uchiha's. It means they died in battle. The thoughts in his heart were further strengthened, and he agreed more with what Shui said, believing that only the determination to abandon everything can bring peace to Konoha. Having witnessed the battlefield at a young age, he realized that peace was hard-won. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly didn't know what he was thinking. He came to the 4 frightened enemies. After forming a seal and casting a spell, his right hand covered his temple, the area with the densest nerves and closest to the brain. Illusory. Time tunnel. The long-lost mind-reading scene. Travel through the life of the ninja, and experience the life of the ninja in a first-person perspective. After frowning, he finally found the point. Enemy mission. Stop, what did you do to him? Shouted the Kumogakure ninja next to him. Damn it, you bastards of Konoha, our Captain Samatsu will kill you. It's the man who gives us a good time. You have a mother but not a mother, kill me quickly. Kill me. The other 3 also realized that something was wrong and wanted to provoke Fishikingfeng to kill themselves. Don't worry, it's your turn. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly smiled slightly and started reading the second person. Are you trying to shake his iron will with a cheap provocation? As for their so-called Captain Samatsu, he had already sensed it and had killed the enemy in the morning. On the way here. 1, 2, 3, 4. No matter how hard the 4 of them struggled, their memories were read one by the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. By the way, the head of Jonan's corpse at their feet was also read. Mitarashi Anko, who was sitting on the ground next to him, looked at him touching the heads of each enemy and muttered, "Doesn't he have some quirks and likes to touch other people's heads?" Hearing this, Itachi said, "Sister Hondo, Brother Dragonfly should be using mind-reading skills to explore the enemy's intelligence." He said that when he introduced himself. Have you forgotten? Anko felt happy when she heard Itachi calling her sister. But when she heard the next words, she blushed again. This kind of intelligence error really shouldn't happen. The more I thought about it, the redder my face turned. It's so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing to expose his mistake in front of an 8-year-old kid like Itachi. It's all the fault of Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. There was no memory point when introducing it, so I didn't remember it. Yes, that's it. It's all his fault. Itachi watched her expression change again and again, thinking that this female ninja was really scary, not even the slightest bit sure about what she was thinking at the moment. I thought I had put the psychology I studied to good use, but I still couldn't understand what this big sister was thinking at the moment. Puff 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 puff. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly killed 4 people with kunai. Then piled the corpses of other dead enemies together. He took out a scroll from his waist bag, laid it flat on the ground, and opened it. He pressed the seal on the blank space on it, and the surrounding runes began to pour out from the scroll, wrapping around all the corpses. The corpses slowly turned into ribbons of light and were sucked into the center of the scroll. A word corpse appeared in the blank space. Fei Bamboo Dragonfly put the scroll into her bag. Hey, why did you put the body away? Hondo asked doubtfully. Hearing this, Itachi was even more confused. Sister Anko, corpses are an important source of ninja intelligence. Whether it is to obtain intelligence from the enemy's body or find a way to crack the enemy's ninjutsu. It can be used to read the enemy's memory or do other experiments. I remember it was mentioned in the intelligence class of the 2nd grade course in school. The corpse disposal team of the Konoha Medical Department was established just for this purpose. Red. Smoke. Mitarashi Anko felt that every word Itachi said made her ashamed. She is obviously Chunin, but she always forgets these common sense. Yes, Anko, didn't you learn from Senior Orochimaru? I heard that he defected to Konoha just for experiments. He should be able to teach you various methods of disposing of corpses. Flying Bamboo Dragonfly finished the attack with a smile. I forgot these important things because Orochimaru sealed my memory. Yes, that's it. Why are you superior? Who do you think you are? You're still talking about me, but you're not the captain. Cracking, seemingly finding an outlet, Mitarashi Anko did not roar at the 8-year-old Itachi, but kept roaring at the Flying Bamboo Dragonfly. The body language of the hands is rich, and it seems that there is also rich language contained in it.